in Forest Botany Division in Forest Research Institute, University Dehradun. And he is also a member in International Association of Wood Botanists, editorial board member for the Journal of Ecology.
Foundation giving me this opportunity to present my work in front of a huge section of the people from all over India, and especially there is one guest who is from outside India. So thanks a lot, madam, for joining. So I'll share my screen now. My PhD work was in the field of wood anatomy discipline in Forest Research Institute at Dehradun. It's a very interesting location, and I have selected for particularly I was very fascinated to work in such a field which has been less heard about and which has not been studied so far, at least in India. So here I am presenting my point of view about the wood science, and which will share a lot of things, and I hope this presentation and this session creates interest in all of you. So I will be beginning.
आ गया नहीं आ गया नहीं कहाँ चढ़े हो आ गया
Okay, I hope my screen is visible to all.
इनके पीछे से कोई झाँक रहा है, सर के पीछे से
जिधर वाले होंगे
ये बेटी पीछे।
देखना है सर, आपकी बेटी टिकटॉक बना रही है तो मैं कैसे बता सर, आपके पीछे खड़े होकर बना रही है नहीं आपकी सर, आपने आज सर नीचे सर पैंट नहीं पहनी सर, आपकी बेटी जो है टिकटॉक बना रही है उसमें आप पीछे से पूरा देख रहे हैं, आप शर्ट पहने बैठे हैं नीचे कच्चे के।
Yeah. And so the topic which I am going to present today, it is about the science of wood, its structure and significance. Being from a botany background, the issue that is wood has always fascinated me, and before beginning my PhD work, I was always interested in going into something which is out of the way, which is different, and where the learning would be really very interesting. So we'll begin with the talk. The contents of my session today will include, first of all, the brief idea about what is the significance of studying this subject, that is about the wood. Then we'll go into the insights of the wood, especially everyone must be aware about something called as growth rates and how the significance is. Then we'll talk about something called hardwood as well as sapwood, and we'll go into the different types of wood, and I'll also take an insight into the structure of the wood, its anatomy also. Then we'll come to the practical aspects, how the collection of the wood samples is carried out and how the microscopic analysis is done. And my session will end with a brief overview of two of my interesting publications, which will give an idea about what kind of future work can also be done in this field, so the present students can have some good openings in the future.
इनकी स्लाइड शेयर कहीं और आ रही है क्या?
दो आता है ना
Coming to the wood,
दो
now
ऑप्शन
in
होते
our daily life, if we look around, there are so many such articles or artifacts which are made up of wood. It becomes an inevitable part of our life, right from a small matchstick to huge furnitures. Wood becomes an integral part of its construction. At present, because of this lockdown and the pandemic, many people are into indoor games.
वो रिकॉर्ड हो रहा था इनकी बात
This carom board is a very interesting game which people play within the family, and that is made up of wood. So many furnitures They last long for many years because they are made up of this tough structure called wood. Wood finds use in various sports goods also, keychains, artifacts, and even in railway sleepers, wood becomes very useful. Nowadays, we know very well that railway sleepers are made up of concrete, but in the earlier days, the wooden logs were used to make the railway sleeper. So that itself gives an idea how strong this structure is. That's why studies on wood can always give very interesting results, and there have been past incidences about this also, which I will touch upon in my presentation. So coming to the technical aspect of wood, as we all know, in the course of plant evolution, when higher plants evolved, the major thing that happened, especially from the pteridoids to the gymnosperms, the height and the size of the plants increased. And the size of the plant could increase only because of this structure which was produced by the plants, that is the wood, because it was able to support a huge plant, a huge tree. So basically, wood, technically speaking, it is a very important part of higher plant structure. And this ultimately is nothing but technically the secondary xylem of mature shrubs, trees, and lianas. Lianas are nothing but the woody climbers. So wood is covered by a protective layer known as the bark, and the inner portion is the wood. So it is a tough structure. And this is produced during the growth of the plant by a process known as secondary growth. Primary growth is the one where the seedling germinates and the basic tissue, root, stem, and leaf structure develops. But when it grows further in size, the girth needs to increase. The increase in the girth is brought about by cambium tissues in the vascular bundles. Cambium tissue keeps on adding more secondary tissues on either side. That leads to secondary growth, as a result of which the wood is produced. In fact, the bark is also a result of secondary growth. So bark is nothing but a secondary phloem and its structure, and the wood is the secondary xylem. All of you must be aware about something called timbers. Now, when you say timbers, it is the wood of those plants which finds a lot of commercial value. Every species has got wood which have different properties, physical properties based on which we use it for different purposes. So here in India, as we all know, there is no dearth of biodiversity, and similarly, this applies even for plants which produce good quality timbers, and we have very huge such diversity in our country, gymnosperms as well as angiosperms. This study about the wood, it's not only just a classical study, it also finds a lot of applications in various other fields. Like for example, in fields like taxonomy. Now, taxonomy is a subject wherein the basic aspect of the subject is about identification of the species. Now, wood structure or the microstructure or the anatomical structure of the wood can become a very important criteria for identifying any species right up to the species level. In fact. So wood anatomy is finds very important application in the field of taxonomy, as well as in plant ecology, because any plant is what you can say, it is associated with its environment, and because of the environment it has to adapt itself. So there are so many adaptations that are present even in the wood structure so that the plant can withstand that place. When we are talking about huge trees, they survive for so long, hundreds of years, so they're exposed to the area or environment around it for so many years, and they have to adapt. So wood is one structure where the adaptations are very beautifully seen. Would also find applications in the field of archaeology, timber industries, because there are so many such wooden artifacts that are unearthed from the ancient civilizations. And when you study them, you get a lot of insights into the use of such plants in the olden days also. Sports industry, railways, etc. also has a lot of wood uses in wood. So let us see more into this. These are some of the examples of timber species found in India, like Dalbergia sisu, which is locally known as the shisha, Shoya robusta, sal. A major portion of our country is covered by the sal forest, which is a part of a deciduous and semi-evergreen forest area. Dalbergia latifolia, which is also known as the rosewood. Triflora grandis, that is the teakwood. Zadigata, that is the neem, very indigenous plant of India. And Citrus deodar, the gymnosperm, which is found in the higher reaches of the Himalayas. So many such timber species, these and many more to our mind is about the growth rings. Growth rings, also known as annual rings. The word annual itself tells one thing, that something associated with 1 year. Yes, growth rings and annual or the annual rings indicate the number of years of growth of a plant. All of us are aware about this main point, that when a log is taken and you come to the growth rings right from the center to the periphery, you come to know the age of the tree, and that is because that itself indicates that in 1 year there is one complete growth ring that is produced. Why it is so? We'll see that. So first of all, growth ring is explained as the closely spaced rings in the cross section of the wood, which is observed from the center to the periphery. One single growth ring, as you can see here, consists of two main parts. The lighter portion is known as the spring gold or the summer gold, also known as the early gold. This portion is produced during the favorable condition of the year. That means when there is good amount of sunlight, good amount of rainfall, water availability. And the other portion, the darker green region, and the intensity of the sunlight differs markedly in those regions, and that is reflected in the growth rates. But in the case of evergreen species, we generally live in those regions where the seasons are not much markedly transient. In such cases, the growth rings also reflect the same thing. Fairly interesting, please notice very, very faint or simple. There are no growth rings also because throughout the year the conditions are more or less similar. So this way growth ring can reveal a good amount of data. Counting of the growth rings, and because of which you can reveal the age of the tree, there is a subject under this which is known as dendrochronology. So having an idea about the growth rings or the annual rings, let us see what are the other significance. As we discussed just now, growth rings may make a marked transition during different seasons. The borders of the growth rings are the ones that indicate how seasons shift from one to the other. Growth rings also give an idea about the geographical distribution, the phytoclimatic condition, because in one single log, if we see, they are more or less concentric rings, but they're exactly not the concentric ones. So that itself gives an idea there is a topographic condition where the plant is trending, the amount of water available in that region. So water availability is a very important feature that is highlighted or reflected in the growth rings. And there is a tissue known as vessels in the wood of the secondary xylem. That vessel has got a specific diameter. So if the water availability is good, the diameter will be more because vessels are involved in convection of the water. And that difference gives an
Hello?
idea of water availability. So this is one of the
Hello?
adaptation I was talking about. And represent the
Yes,
year with
yes,
obviously.
Sushmita. Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
very interesting part is that if there is any particular
Yeah?
abnormal pattern or an abrupt pattern in any one or more growth
Yes,
rings,
raining
that
there.
gives you gives
Yeah.
an indication that in that particular year the plant was exposed to some kind of a rare
Okay.
event,
Okay.
like maybe an earthquake or a hurricane
But
or any such
but
climatic event, and that is also very reflected in the growth ring.
okay. But my
And
mic is
there is a
off.
special category called fossil woods. Fossils means those wood specimens which have been preserved over a period of years. triangle. So initially there was only sapwood, but as and when the maturity increased and the secondary wood increased, some portion of the wood structure in a plant is so well protected by the bark. If you approach a tree, first of all you will find the bark. This wood is such an interesting structure because you imagine a huge tree where the roots might be so deep into the soil, they're involving conduction and providing support, mechanical support, supporting the tree. And at the top, there is a crown of leaves, branches and branches of leaves. They are involved in most of the physiological process. But without the structure that is the wood, both of them are they're interdependent compulsory. Because this wood is involved in transportation and combustion. The water reaches the leaves and they are able to carry photosynthesis only because the wood plant is there. Similarly, after photosynthesis, whatever food is manufactured, they are able to use the other parts of the plant only because of the woody leaves. So that means wood becomes a very, very important aspect of plant life. So that is why it involves a good amount of protection and you can find it in the form of this bark, which is also divided into two layers, that is the inner bark and the outer bark. And the structures of the bark across various species also differs. Some have fissured bark, some have smooth bark, some have peeling bark, that again differs from one species to the other. So talking about the hardwood and the sapwood, hardwood is also called the duramen and sapwood is also called the alburnum. Hardwood, as we saw, forms the central wood of an old stem, and sapwood is the outer part of a mature stem. We are talking about this word mature not as a picture because in the initial stages of the secondary growth, when the wood just starts forming in young plants or even in the young branches, that time the wood is known as juvenile wood. But once the secondary growth gets completed and a fully grown tree, the wood is now called as the mature wood. The features in the juvenile wood and the mature wood of the same tree also differs. But for study purposes and for understanding the adaptation purposes, we always prefer the mature wood. So here, the mature outer part of the mature wood is the sapwood, and as and when the sapwood increases, the inner part of the sapwood keeps turning into hardwood. The hardwood is dark in color because it is formed in mineral deposits. The bigger deposits are secondary metabolites which the plants keeps on producing. Sapwood is comparatively lighter in color. The colors and the shade also differs from one species to another. The hardwood, because of the deposits, they are generally heavy and they have more density, while the sapwood is comparatively lighter in weight. Living cells in the wood and the hardwood were mostly absent. Very few parenchyma cells might be present, but they are generally collapsed. In the case of sapwood, they contain living cells in the form of parenchyma. But ultimately, the hardwood is the dead and the non-functional part of the wood, which is only having the mechanical support and the storage region, while the sapwood is the inner part which is involved in the ascent of seed. So, here we got an idea about the basic structure of a log of wood. Coming to the types. Now, when you imagine the wood is ultimately wood, however, for secondary growth, but it has its types based on classification and the structure. There are two main types of wood. The wood which is obtained from gymnosperms, that means the native plants usually in the cold regions having needle-shaped leaves, and most of the conifers they grow in this category, and such wood are known as softwoods. Example, as we know, pinus, cedar. Which one, sir?
Sliding microtome for
For heart tissues. It is sliding microdome for heart tissues.
sir, please hide
I
it.
think the tab is coming in between.
Hello sir, please hide it.
Okay. Okay, now you're able to see?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. Okay, so this is a sliding microtome, that is the instrument used for heart tissues, and it's a very simple and a perfect instrument. In this instrument, these are the knobs, okay, by which you can manage or you can adjust the settings for the thickness of the section that you want. And this is the holder where the sample is kept, the wood sample is kept, and this is the holder for the microtome knife. Now, this microtome knife is a very different one. The microtome knives are again available in various brands, so sometimes some companies provide both of them together as a set. So the microtome, and along with the microtome, a sharpening board which is available. So 15-20 minutes, if you keep on sharpening, you can use the same knife for taking out say around 100 to 200 sections. This knife is mounted on this board. Here, you just have to move it over the wood sample after adjusting everything, and you get the section of the required thickness. The section comes out very beautifully, and you can take a large number of sections very also. The settings very carefully. The only thing is there not be any nick in towards the edge of the knife. Otherwise, it becomes very difficult to remove it. And the instruments are quite costly, but it's a one-time investment. Once the sections are taken, the processing according to standard laboratory procedure is done, and using any mounting medium like PTX, the permanent slides can be prepared. And these permanent slides for the sections can be observed under the microscope for studying the microstructure. Now, for studying the microstructure, you need to have an association called the IVA, International Association of Wood Anatomists. This IVA provides a list of detailed characters as well as softwood separately. The characters include qualitative as well as quantitative characters, quantitative features of the wood. Qualitative in the sense, you can say the axial parenchyma, all those details, and quantitative means the dimensions, the length of the vessel, the thickness of the fibers, like that. So all such characters, detailed ones, are provided for hardwoods as well as softwoods in the IVA 1989 issue, and are still used as a reference for taxonomic purposes. Besides, IVA journal research work related to wood anatomy can be published, and they are good quality papers still now. Very useful for study as well as research. Coming to the anatomical structure, first of all, we can have an overview about what kind of sections can be taken. As we saw something called true block. Now, true block has got three different angles. The first one is the TS, that is a cross section. Okay, at the TS level it can be taken. So all the woody tissues can be seen in a perpendicular manner. There are two types of longitudinal section: radial longitudinal section and transverse longitudinal section. Tangential longitudinal section. Radial longitudinal section, as it is seen in the picture, it is taken through the diameter, through the centermost portion of the wood. That section is taken, that gives the RLS. And tangential longitudinal section is across the tangent, that means towards the edge. So in all the three cases, different types of wood structures can be seen in all possible angles, and the entire study can be carried out. So one brief look at the detailed anatomical structure. First of all, the softwood. This is one representation of a complete block. So softwood is characteristically understood by the presence of tracheids, a lot of them, and there are resin canals in it. These are the main prominent features. And there are ray parenchyma available, the parenchyma tissue which are present. But if you compare it to the hardwood, there is one prominent feature which is found in hardwood, and that is the xylem vessel. The cross section is traversed by a lot of such xylem vessel pores. Wood is also known as porous wood, while a soft wood is also known as non-porous. The ray tissue is there, then the ray parenchyma, two types of parenchyma are there, growth rings one by one. Coming to the softwood, The major components of the softwood are parenchyma and the ray parenchyma, the resin canals, and some cell inclusions. There are fibers also which are present, but the tracheids are more prominent ones and more in number. In case of softwood, the tracheids are involved in dual function. They are involved in the conduction of the sap as well as mechanical support to the body tissue. Parenchyma, axial parenchyma is the one that is present around the tracheids, while the ray parenchyma are ones that are as from the center of the foot to the periphery. So they are involved in lateral conduction as well as storage. Resin canals consist of resin ducts, which are the secretions produced by the plants, and many such secondary metabolites in some species. They are converted into storage structures and present in the form of various cell inclusions. You'll see the cross section when a TS of a softwood is taken, irrespective of the species. This is the kind of look that you get into the mouth. Of the species are very prominent. You can see thin walled cell, and the tracheids can be differentiated by the thick walled ones, which are present over here. The tracheids are the ones that determine the growth ring boundaries. And in between, you can see sheets of lines of cells like this, which are the ray parenchyma. This gives an idea, brief idea about the cross section of a softwood. It's the radial longitudinal section. Now here, in an RLS, when you see these longitudinal lines of cells that one can see are the tracheids, you can see the pits. I'll come to the importance of the pits as well. And just perpendicular to that, you can see the ray parenchyma cells. Now, the ray parenchyma cells in a horizontal manner can be seen only in an RLS. And where the keys they intersect, there is something called cross field pitting which is produced. This is also very significant for a softwood. Coming to the TLS, now here compared to the RLS, you can see the rays in a different angle. The ray seriations can be seen, best seen in a TL, uniseriate. Tracheids
Sir, please
can be
share
seen from a
the
different angle.
PPT.
Sorry,
Please
pardon?
share the PPT.
Okay,
Please share the PowerPoint with us.
I'll try to share that. Yeah, thank you. So in the TLS, you can see the ray seriations and as well as the tracheids. So the ray seriations, the number of cells, the length of the rays, that can be best seen in three angles of the softwood which I have shown you. Besides that, there are many other prominent features. The boundaries between early wood and late wood, the transition is quite abrupt. That is, you can see the tracheid wall thickness, which is quite species. The transition is gradual. So again, this can be a very important identifying character. Similarly, on the walls of now tracheids, as we have seen, they are involved in the conduction of the sap as well as protection because of the thick walls. Now you can imagine a huge gymnospermous tree where the water is being conducted from the ground to the top till the leaves. So when the tracheids are not to end and adjacent to each other as well. So when from the ground, when the water is being conducted, it has some obstacle between, maybe air bubble or something like that. So the water conduction should not stop, and that's the reason these pits are provided on the walls. So that when the water is conducted from one tracheid, it can travel through the pit to the adjacent one, and the conduction can continue. It will not hamper the conduction process in the plant. So you can see in these tracheids, there are just one row of tracheids, pits. That's called uniseriate pitting. Similarly, in some others, there are two rows of them. That's called biseriate. And in some others, there are. So these kind of features can be observed in detail. Then some species also show some beautiful in the form of these helical thicknings. It may appear ornamental for us, they are nothing but lignified thickenings on the walls of the tracheids. But for the plant, it is for the protection. Things also differs from one species to another. It can be spiral or it can be scalary form like this. You can see in this picture. As I shown in the like in the case of an RLS, if you observe a softwood, the tracheids are seen vertically and the ray parenchyma cells are seen horizontally. Recently, came across I heard another webinar by a scientist from Pune University, paintings in the Ajanta Ellora caves. And those paintings, when they scraped out, they contain wood fibers in it. Identification of that requires the expertise of a wood anatomist. His sample, which was found 150 feet below the riverbed, and it has been preserved inside the river for so long. If we are there is another such place which is known as a xylarium, because wood is also called a secondary xylem. So a place where there is a collection of such wood samples which are polished, which are preserved and converted into blocks and kept for a long period of time. Such a place is known as a xylarium. This is one xylarium which is present located at the Forest Research Institute, Dehradun. That institute has got forest botany lab also. That wood anatomy lab has got this xylarium, and this xylarium is a very old one which has got collections of more than 25,000 species. Indian collection as well as foreign collection from across different countries. So this is a very interesting place to study, but obviously everybody does not have an access to it. You require permission. There's another such xylarium located in Bangalore, but that's a smaller one compared to this one. So this kind of preservation can also be carried out. So with this I come in, and the words will prove less, but I was fortunate enough to be a research scholar at the Forest Research Institute, Dehradun, and she is Dr. Sangeeta Gupta, my PhD guide. He is a very renowned wood anatomist under whom I was 4 years. And one part of my PhD also he is Dr. K.S. Rajput sir, an associate professor. He has his plant anatomy laboratory over there. And the latest microscope instrument was available in his lab because of it was in this lab. She's Ankita Gupta, and she's the one I was talking about from Jharkhand, who has got very good bruises sample in the Mangifera indica. We worked together for collections and all. It was a very good learning experience to be in the and come across the raw nature for collection, facing all the obstacles and also field study is an extremely important part. We botanists, I really believe that as a botanist, one should go into the field. And actually, yeah, this is the team. This was the team where I worked with, and my mom, my dad, and my sister, and all my friends and colleagues helpful enough to work my study. So I will. This will always be a very memorable and integral part of my life. Giving me this opportunity to present this interesting topic in front of all of you. Hope I was convincing enough and you find this topic interesting. At SIS college and the current students, I'm trying to encourage them to go into research, academics, and study something from the nature which is extremely useful. And India is abound in all this, so there is no shortage of any such thing. One should already know. And the session is open for any discussions now. Thank you.
Hello, thank you, Vishnu sir, for such a wonderful presentation. And now we can start the discussion. If you have any queries, you can directly ask to Vishnu sir right now. And the guys who texted on the chat box, please resend that question, because due to the network, I also see that question right now. Please text the questions again, or you just ask directly to Vishnu sir. Okay, thank you. Hello, sir.
Yes, sir.
Actually,
Okay,
we have
I
one question,
chat
sir.
box.
And
Yes,
what
sir.
make wood dense or light?
Okay, so the density or the specific gravity of the wood that depends upon the. We have seen there are tissues like fibers which are thick walls, and there are so the amount of the tissue determines the density. If a wood has a lot of parenchyma in it, then it will be automatically light in weight. If then the gravity increases, lightness of the wood.
Okay, sir, and that question was by AC, and his full name is not available. And next question is from
Yes, sir.
okay, Reshma. She asked,
Yes.
Can you give an example of minerals found in woods
Yeah.
and
Most
mineralization in woods?
commonly, yes, sir. Most commonly, the minerals or the deposits that are found in wood contains calcium compounds, and actually, this can also become a very interesting study. There are only studies based on the crystals or the inclusions which are found in wood. Like there is a way in which you can take a wood sample, you can just remain can be can studied chemically. So fossil woods like petrified wood or fossil woods can also have such deposits present in it, and it depends from one place to the other, one species to the other. Whatever is there in the soil, that is taken up and that is converted so that it does not get the physiological system in the plant. That is the main point actually. Most often it is calcium compounds.
Okay, sir, and if you have another question too,
Yes, sir.
is it possible to manufacture petrified wood in lab?
Petrified wood, say whatever nature manufactures exactly same humans to manufacture. Yes, but whatever is available in the nature, we can always preserve it. We have different ways in which the timber industry does that. Like there are wood polishes available, so tarnishes and all available. So that if at all there